What up, folks? It's your boy Tim, aka Chicago, in a corner. This actually is a follow up video to my prior video, which was titled Expediting Is It Worth It? And the reason I'm making this follow up video is in relation to some of the comments that were posted. If you've seen the other video, and I'll link it in the description, I talked about the difference between an expediting position versus a W 2 position. And I used a very humble salary of $10 an hour. And I got a little bit of feedback, and that's why I'm going to go ahead and give some additional feedback. One of the feedbacks was actually from Everything Apax. That's a YouTube channel. I will link that video in the description. I know the narrator of that channel, and he's a good dude with all intents and purposes. We talk, we debate politics and things like that. But he stated that I actually painted expediting in a negative light. I tend to disagree with that because I really enjoy traveling, really enjoy seeing the country, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. But I compared it to W 2 salaries at modest levels, and it doesn't add up. Despite him saying I painted it negatively, which I didn't, because like I said, there's a lot of benefits to being an expediter, but it's not financial. So I did. I'm going to do this follow-up video, and some of it is based on him, and some of it is based on the comments. But I stand by my original statement because even with basing it at a $10 per hour salary, the overtime you do in expediting is outrageous. And like I said in the first video, if you're working in a W-2 world, all of that overtime is going to be a time and a half, and you're going to get things like shift differential and on-call pay for taking calls in the middle of the night, et cetera, et cetera. But there was things I did not go into further detail of, which is other benefits of a W-2 position that do not exist, or for the most part are very rare or low level in the expediting world. Because as an independent contractor, whether you're expediting or doing anything that's your own small business, these things are not going to be covered. And that's stuff like death benefits, retirement. You know, a lot of companies will contribute to your 401k, or if you're lucky, even get a pension. There's unemployment insurance. There's you're going to get workers' comp, and of course, there's potential medical benefits, which absolutely are not going to come in this field. No expediter is going to get medical benefits that's working under a 1099 umbrella. So all of that is also in regards to your pay. You may be working at a Walmart or Dollar General somewhere, and you're making 10, 11, 12 bucks an hour. That's what you're claiming you make. But to them, because they're paying for your health care or something else, they're looking at you, well, this person is worth 17 bucks an hour or something. So all of that is in on that. And if you work in a W-2 job, chances are you're getting some of that. I got a comment also, in addition to getting a video made about what I stated from Everything Apax. Like I said, I will link that video in the description. Here's a comment I got from Junior's Drone Experience in Expediting. He stated that you're talking about a perfect world. No W-2 job I ever worked for paid more than 14 an hour, nor did they give out vacation time. I give vacation time now whenever I want it, and I make double the money. Okay, as an expediter, you're not getting vacation time. You're just not coming in, not getting paid. In the W-2 world, when you get a vacation, you're getting paid for that vacation. So you're sitting at home for that week, 2, 3, 4 weeks a year you get, and you're actually getting a paycheck while you're sitting at home. Nobody in the expediting field collects money while they're sitting at home unless they have other drivers out, and that's at a higher level. That's a fleet manager or something else. Even in that case, the fleet managers, things like that, even when they're on vacation, they still are working to some degree. But when he stated he worked for 14 hours and they did not give out vacation time, that's news to me, because I've never heard of a W-2 job where you're getting paid per hour and you get no vacation time. I mean, even if you work flipping burgers, McDonald's will give you a year or two of vacation per year. So I've never heard of that. So post it in the comments if you've ever worked for a W-2 position, hourly salary, and you didn't get vacation time. Like they expected you to come to work every week for that entire year without taking any time off. I've heard of no sick days. That's becoming more and more common. But no vacation time, that's just something I've never heard of. So, yeah, I would like to hear what you had to say on that. And keep in mind, Junior's drone experience in expediting stated that he was making 14 an hour, not the 10 that I used an example with. Now, one of the things I will say also for those who are saying, well, I made more money than your $10 example, there's things that should be noted. First of all, are you an owner operator or are you driving somebody else's vehicle? Because I mentioned that if you're driving someone else's vehicle, you're usually doing a 60-40 split or something of that nature where you're getting 60% of the per mile rate and the owner's getting the other 40% because it's his vehicle, it's his, he's paying the cost of the vehicle, from everything from repairs to the monthly note on purchasing that vehicle. So you get 60%. At 60%, you're certainly not beating this. You're not beating the $10 an hour job. The reason it seems like you are is because, first of all, you pay taxes at the end of the year. There are a lot of tax shelters or tax things you can write off in the expediting world that do not correlate to the W-2 world. I mean, you literally can write off anything as an expediter because everything you do is on the road, from food to, just about anything, I guess, with the exception of maybe going to a movie, so you're going to have that benefit. But it seems like you're getting paid more from the expediting world. Predominantly, like I said, is because you're not counting all the things you're doing for work. If you've been an expediter, you've certainly spent time waiting to get unloaded or waiting to get loaded. It's not uncommon for an expediter to spend the night at a shipper's office or arrive and have to wait 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes you might get paid a few pennies or so for waiting, but usually you don't. And it usually you're going to have to be there for at least 2 or 3 hours before they will even entertain paying you some money. And at the end of the year, you do you do dozens and dozens of hours of that. That's all time that you would have gotten paid if you were in a W-2 position. Same thing applies to deadheading. Most of the companies, you got to drive at least 100, maybe 200 miles before they start entertaining, giving you anything for deadheading, or they can do it on a percentage. This is a 500-mile trip. We expect you to deadhead at least 10% of that for free, which is 50 miles. How long does it take to drive 50 miles? It depends on what part of the country you're in, but you're not going to get paid for that. At the end of the year, you're going to have hundreds of miles you've deadheaded. You can write it off, but you're not going to get the hourly time that you lost in terms of a salary. If you were doing this in a W-2 world, you would get paid for all of that deadhead time, spending time outside of shippers, spending time outside of loaders, waiting for the forklift guy to come over. There's stuff like airport loads. You may have to go and get faxes because if you pick up loads from the airport, they want a fax. Sometimes you got to go to a truck stop and print that out. That's time. I mean, it may take you 20, 30 minutes, an hour to go to Kinko's or FedEx or whatever you want to call it and get that printed. All of that you would get paid for in the W-2 world. You do not get paid for any of that in the expediting world. And that's including phone calls. How long are you on the phone? Over the course of a year, that's going to be several hours worth of time you spent on the phone, bidding loads, taking loads, getting special instructions from loads, talking to shippers, talking to receivers, all of that. That is more time that you don't get paid for. So the reason why it seems to these individuals that it's competitive to a W-2 position is because they're just looking at how much money I would bring home as a W-2 employee versus how much I'm bringing home as an expediting employee. What they're not comparing is the amount of hours you worked as a W-2 employee versus the colossal amount of extra hours you worked as an expediter. Now, one of the negative comments or pushbacks I got from everything Apax on his channel is he stated, well, Chicago, yours truly, was a touristy guy. And his response was, when I'm out here, I'm not out here to tour or do anything. I'm out here and everything I do is focused on making money. Well, that translates to he's working a whole lot of hours. He's not doing it. He basically has no downtime. He's making it clear that I'm out here. Well, he's not adding up all the hours he's spending doing that. And not to mention, if you are a W-2 employee, you're doing 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You're off on weekends or whatever day you're off. You probably go hang out with your friends at the bar, or you may go to the movies on the weekend, or you may go out on a date. you're being touristy. You're just doing it in your own town. What he's basically is saying that I just work and I don't really take a lot of time off for myself. You can look at that as a negative as well if you want, unless you don't, you're not the type of person that really needs any downtime or anything else. But he's making it clear that all he does is work. And I've watched this page. I mean, I know the company he used to work for because I used to work for the same company. And you look, he's pretty candid. He's pretty transparent on his earnings, and he tells you about how much he drives. I mean, he's driving 3,000, 4,000. Sometimes it's close to 5,000 miles in a single week. How many hours is that? Just think about it. How long does it take you to drive 3,000 miles? And that's not including deadheading to pick up all of those loads and all of the paperwork, spending time at shippers, spending time at unloaders that I mentioned in as well. All of that's in there. How many hours you think he's working in the course of a week? Well over any 40 or 60 hour week that the typical W-2 employee would work. And he's not getting time and a half for that stuff. He's not getting seniority. And that's another thing. Like I actually spoke to the individual by Junior's drone experience in expediting. I talked to him because he was countering, and I asked him, like, how long you been expediting? And he stated he had been expediting several years already. And I told him, I was like, okay, you're comparing it to your $14 an hour job. If you worked a $14 an hour job when you got hired, after 4 or 5 years, you're not making 14 or 15 bucks anymore. Now you're probably making 16 or 17. Remember, in the expediting world, you're not getting those promotions, benefits, and bonuses. You're not going to make the same salary in a W-2 job indefinitely like you are in the expediting job, in the expediting world. In fact, in the expediting world, because the shippers and dispatchers are always trying to pay as little as possible, you actually may be making less than you did 3-4 years ago, because there's more people out here. There's more vans saturating. You remember those little Penske yellow vans? And, you hear the stories about the Russians and people running, illegally. All of that stuff is involved in that. That's not going to happen to you in the W-2 world. You're going to be getting raises, bonuses, benefits, and things like that. So that's something you got to take in consideration. Finally, probably one of the biggest things that makes a difference, as opposed to are you driving in someone else's vehicle versus are you a owner-operator. The other thing is what particular outfits you work for. There are really good ones and there are really bad ones. I actually ran for probably 9 or 10 different companies at this point. Bigger ones like Panther, and Bolt. Little smaller ones, little mom paws. And I can tell you, based on my experience, you're going to get, on average, anywhere between 70 cents a mile to the mid-90s. Anything above the mid-90s, at least in February of 2021, where we stand right now, is really good. Anything above the mid-90s on average, you're doing really well. I think that everything Apax is probably in the really well category. I'm going to stop this because apparently my audio from another video kicked in. But yeah, everything Apax is probably in the mid-90s or so, according to his videos. I mean, like I said, he doesn't do bad, but at the same time, he is putting in a lot of hours. I mean, a whole lot of hours. And like I said in my first video, if you're willing to put in that amount of hours, somebody's going to notice that. You go into a W-2 job and you are totally peachy keen about working 60 to 80 hours a week. You don't mind working 6 and 7 day weeks. It's not going to be long before people start throwing promotions at you and noticing that. You're going to get nice, hefty bonuses at the end of the year, which are very rare in the expediting community. So like I said, there's all these little incidentals that you don't think of in expediting that will certainly happen in the W-2 world. I mean, there's no employer is going to overlook somebody willing to work 60 hours a week for 6 to 7 days a week, willing to be on call at a moment's notice 24 hours a day, and just willing to do unlimited amounts of overtime. That's listening to everything Apax on his channel, like he stated in response to my video, he is ready to go whenever it comes up, and everything he does is while he's on the road for 6 to 8 weeks or even longer. That whole period of time, everything he does is focused towards the work. You go in the W-2 world and you be willing to spend 8 weeks straight where you're willing to give your employer every single hour of the day that you possibly can, with the exception of sleep, for 8 straight weeks, they're going to love you. Your salary is going to shoot up. You're going to get promoted. Like I said, they're going to promote that. So these are things that you're not thinking of when you compare W-2 to expediting. But yeah, like I said, they're not in the same realm in terms of being compensated based on the amount of time you put into it. The only difference is, in the W-2 world, it's challenging to find somebody that will let you work the amount of hours you will work in the expediting world. I mean, nobody, it's not easy to find a job that's going to let you work 80 hours a week. Whereas in the expediting world, you're making 4,000 miles in a week, which everything Apax makes quite often. Yeah, he's doing a whole bunch of 80-hour weeks, a whole bunch of them all over the place. And he's just not adding it up. Also, too, one of the things, the reasons why they tend to think, or we, because I'm in the field as well, why we think you don't work as much is because, what do they say? If you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And most expediters love driving. So you don't actually see driving 300-400 miles or 100 miles to pick up a load, 100 miles of deadhead. It doesn't feel like work to you. It's just driving down a highway at highway speeds and cruise control. You got your radio playing, or you're talking to somebody, or you're just enjoying the scenery. It doesn't feel like work to you. But it is. It is work because you have to do it and you can't do anything else in that time. It is work. So, yeah, hour for hour, there is absolutely no comparison. But do you think I got something wrong? Let me know. Till then, like, comment, subscribe. I'd like to talk to you guys. Love to hear more from you, and we will keep this coming. Talk to you later.